This is the Dalgona coffee. Now, the Dalgona coffee is an interesting thing. Its origins are in South Korea, but it's made its way all the way over here to the UK and around the world in the past few months. And for good reason, frankly, it's delicious. But actually, it has a lot of things in common with a good abstract. First of all, it's composed of very few ingredients, just water, ground coffee, sugar, and milk. And actually, rather like a good abstract, it takes an awful lot of hard work to get something that's worthwhile and something that will get you a presentation at a conference. My name's Harry, and I'm on the committee that's organising this conference. And today I'd like to take you through the process, or at least my process, for writing an abstract based on the work that I've been doing. By all means, use it as you will. Take some of it, take all of it, take none of it. It's really just my own process, and you're really up to you how you'd like to use that. So step one is read the guidance. The guidance that the conference organisers will put out really lays out the fabric and the framework by which you should organise your abstract. It tells you exactly the kind of font to use, what size, the line spacing between paragraphs and lines themselves, but also lays out a structure in terms of what sections you need to put into your abstract and gives you a nice concise way to actually present it in the most amenable format for the reviewers. So step two is create the layout for your abstract. And what I mean by this is grab a bit of paper or open up a Word document and actually add those titles in of your abstract in terms of the title of the abstract, the authors, the author affiliations, introductions, methods, results, conclusions, etc. What this really does is give you some visual headspace, and what I mean by that is actually it's quite difficult to write an abstract all in one go, all in one big chunk. So actually if you can compartmentalise the abstract into several different areas, it helps you to actually just focus on one little bit before then move into another. And what I like to do personally is do one section a day, something like that, or a couple of sections a day, and actually that gives you some time to think about things as you go along, and you can come back and review them before you start the next section. So step three is write your conclusions first. Now this might seem a little bit counterintuitive, but actually this is the way I find best to actually concentrate my efforts on telling the reader exactly what my primary research or what my project is actually wanting to show. So what I mean by this is start with the conclusion and write a single sentence summary of your project. And what that does is it really makes you think about what is the most important aspect that I need to convey to the person that's reading this abstract. What is the one thing that I want them to ask me more about? And it's your job to try and convince them to give you a chance to present this at the conference. Once you have that single sentence, you can then think about a couple of extra lines, really just focusing on perhaps some future directions that you think might be worth exploring, or any other conclusions that you're able to draw from your study. So once you've finished drafting out all of the sections of your abstract and you're relatively happy with how things are reading, my advice to you at this point, this is one of the best things that I've ever done for any of my academic writing, is just to stop and leave it for a few days or even up to a week. What this does is it gives you some time just to really think about it, gives you time away from looking at it. You can't really get bogged down in abstract writing, even though it's only sort of 300 words or so. In the same manner as writing a full manuscript, you really can get bogged down. And so taking some time away to come back with fresh eyes can really help. Can really help you to develop the abstract in general. So before we finish, I've got a few extra hints that might help you write your abstract and might increase your chances, or perhaps just elevate it slightly, and hopefully get you a presentation at the conference. So the first hint is really squeeze your word count. You really have a limited amount of words, and it's surprising how difficult it is to get your potentially 16,000 word thesis into about 300 words. So you really have to be careful with the words you're using and make use of that thesaurus to make sure that you can get the most value, most bang for your buck out of the words that you have on the bit of paper. The second hint is use humour sparingly. It's absolutely fine to use a bit of humour in your abstract, but I wouldn't go out of my way to try and include it. I don't necessarily think it adds anything, and actually it's much better to use humour in your actual presentation than it is to have on paper. Sometimes humour doesn't come across that well on paper in terms of it might be misconstrued in a different way than you intended it. So if it were me, I would just avoid it altogether. So hint 3 is sort of in the same vein as hint 2. And what I'd like to say is just avoid using the phrase, we need to do further work in this industry. It doesn't really add anything, I don't think, to the abstract in itself. And actually, unless you can qualify that statement with a suggestion, for example, or be a bit more specific, I would just avoid using it altogether. So hint 4 is use the simplest language you can where possible. And really this kind of goes back to one of the tips one of the steps that I was talking about previously. You don't really know who the abstract assessor is. They might not have any real knowledge in your area. They'll probably have a basic knowledge, but they won't necessarily have as much knowledge as you do. So you really need to, for you to be able to convey your project well, and for them to understand the things that you want them to understand, it's kind of in your favour and in your benefit to use language that everybody can understand. Last but not least, this final hint is about convincing the reader of your abstract that your work is the most important work they've read on that day. And what I mean by this is that the reviewers of the abstracts that you're going to be sending in are possibly going to be reading quite a lot of abstracts over the next couple of weeks. And so you really need to make your abstract stand out, and you need to tell them, you need to convince them what it is that makes your abstract stand out, and what it is that means that they should pick your abstract for either a poster presentation or an oral presentation. I really think that's one of the key things that I want to convey in this video. So I really hope that this short video has been useful for you in terms of helping you to construct and put together your abstract and submit to our conference. I really think it's going to be a fabulous day. We're expecting really fantastic presentations and extra little workshops and breakout sessions. So I hope that you'll join us. If you'd like to follow on with the online chat, it'd be really great if you could follow me on Twitter, perhaps follow Phil on Twitter, even follow MedAll on Twitter, and I'm sure Phil will put all these links down below the video. So that's all from me in this video. I really hope to see you all at the conference at the end of May. If you do have any questions, please do feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. I'm happy to answer any questions about abstract writing for this conference.